I've done that work. All of this also has to do with body image and I've gone through menopause. Like I am not the same as I was 10 years ago.
Hmm.
And I've done the work that's like, okay, this isn't what really matters. This is, I don't have a waist. Big whoop, really. We do drag all these things of, especially the not good enough things.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, it's exhausting. So seeing little old ladies, especially in Eastern Europe, little old ladies hunched over a cane, barely able to walk down the street. I'm like, I am not going to be that person because that's not only physical, that's some mental weight on there to
Hmm.
become that, because you do have a choice how you're going to end up. You
Oh sure.
absolutely always have a choice.
Hello and welcome to the Studio Takeover podcast. I am your host, Kat Ford Coates. The Studio Takeover podcast is for portrait photographers, but not only geared around portrait. We talk about life, we talk about transformation, we talk about growth, we talk about money. And today I am joined by none other than Darina Neyret. Welcome, Darina. I'm so glad you're here.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You and I kind of go back a few years, in the photo community space. And both of us growing our businesses and learning all of the things and incremental level ups. But you're really sort of expanding into well, maybe not even expanding, but you have expanded into the neuroplasticity space and now you're incorporating it in with your clients today, which
Yes.
is really, really cool. Uh, and so I'm hopeful that we can kind of touch on some of that for sure.
I'm a creative, so it's like I can't do the same thing every single day, year in, year out.
Mhm.
There has to be an evolution. There has to be something new and already, I mean, it's wonderful having different people in your studio all the time because there's always
Sure.
going to be something different about a shoot, but I certainly don't like to stay in the same place for very long.
Well, it kind of gets stale, right? Like if what's the
Yeah.
saying? Like if you're not growing, you're dying kind of a thing. And
Right.
I think that's
Right.
absolutely true with creativity. There's always got to be some sort of exploration, whether it's through part of the recipe, right? Like let's check this new light design, or what about this styling thing, or, insert component here. You're creating something out of literally nothing.
Hmm.
And in that, you create the version of someone in that moment. And sometimes that's like future casting. This version of me, I want to see her every day. She's the strong, confident, powerful CEO. And then others might be, you know what? Like sometimes it's okay to just have that vulnerable, soft version of me too. And what
Hmm.
that does for us, when you talk to brain experts, all of the voices in your head are still your voice, even if it's your mom's, right? Even if it's Catherine Vanessa Brains,
Hmm.
like it's still my voice, just with her cadence. And I think the same thing is true visually.
Hmm.
When you can see a version of yourself that exists that's meaningful for you, it's much easier to start embodying the traits of that version. When you start getting into like the neuroplasticity aspect of it, like what does that do for someone? I was like, yes, Darina, let's go. We got to have this conversation.
Well, and I don't, the client doesn't know that this is what I'm
Mhm.
doing. I don't market it as where this is a neuroplasticity
Sure,
experience
sure.
and portrait, definitely came around organically because I wanted to create a beautiful experience for people. I want to do good things and have great service and just make beautiful photographs.
Sure.
And over time, because I really care and I put my heart and soul into every shoot, I started getting these testimonials and feedback and people calling me with these things that were like, what? Like one woman called me to say, my husband just told me I'm walking taller. You
Love that.
know, one woman called me and said that her intimate relationship with her husband had transformed
Hmm.
through releasing the body shame that she had, that she now can see the evidence that
Yeah.
She is stunning and beautiful
And
and sexy. Yeah.
beautiful. And, like
Yeah.
all of the things we avoid, right? Like, I
Right.
don't want to look at that today. I don't want to look in the
Yeah.
mirror. I don't even want to see my face, let alone the rest of my body.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, no, I bet that was super powerful for her partnership.
Very. And then, people going after jobs that they didn't think they were good enough for. And, so I'm being blown away by this and these kind of things like, wow, I'm doing this. Like, how is this even possible? And then I discovered these neuroplasticity and neuroscience podcasts and I started listening to them and now I have like a stack of 50 books from the library that I'm like, wow, this is what's happening to people. Because think about a time when you had a transformative moment or something that you learned that you had that kind of aha about yourself. Like
Hmm.
it could be when you were traveling or you had the best meal of your life or something in high school or college. And you think about who was there. There's usually somebody guiding you. There's some community aspect of either if it's one other person than you or more, but there's this whole guidance aspect to it.
Well, it's
So that's
Sojourner,
what
right?
happens in the
Like,
studio with us photographers
yeah.
because we know most of us already know that we're half therapist, we're half mindset coach, we're half,
Right.
we have many halves, which is not math, but you know what I mean? So integrating the neuroplasticity into making sure people have these aha moments is laying the groundwork to being safe, that
Hmm.
they already know before they even come that they're going to be in a safe space, they're going to be guided, they're going to, have their own music that they like. Because imagine, you got some woman power pumping music, but really they're into like 70s era Olivia
Right.
Newton-John. Like, they they know they're gonna have their own music, they're gonna have that safety is cultivated, and then that's when the magic happens because then they start to let go and they pass through those fear barriers, the fear of being seen or that I'm not photogenic and all those other things that we know about as photographers. They become responsible for that. They have to go in the world and put that to the test then. So, like the woman with her husband,
Hmm.
she put it to the test. She could never just undress and get into bed. She had to hide and get into bed. And now she just undresses and gets into bed. And she happened in the studio that she felt transformed by, and then she put it to the test. And that's when it
Well, and
carries through
it's
life.
it's not just a test, right? It's like making different decisions. That I think is really powerful because when people don't trust themselves, you can't make a choice. So the choice is
Mhm.
always like to hide and attempt and try to navigate through. But when you're talking about like creating a safe space for someone, we had Jen Swideen on, and we were talking a lot about safety and masking and all of the things, and that
Mhm.
comes from a lack of safety. And I don't care if we're talking about a photo studio or a Belk. Businesses have to create a safe environment for people. Nightclubs, retail shops, restaurants, like all of every business on the
Mhm.
planet, because if people don't feel safe in your space, how could
Mhm.
they possibly choose to spend $20 or 20,000? I love that you said, it is about like laying the groundwork, right? Like what is some of
Mhm.
the like pre-session ritual that you have with them? Like I'm sure there's some sort of consultation, but what other aspects of integration are you setting the stage for with them even before you have them in the studio?
I give them homework. I'm like, it's something that I learned from a few of the educators we have in common, like, from Cara Marie, from Sue Bryce, of, start a gratitude practice. It's like, it seems very cliche right now, like everybody's talking about gratitude practice, but it is absolutely one of the most powerful things you can do. And it
Yeah.
takes 5 minutes in your
Well, it's
morning. Have your
presence.
coffee, write down 5 things, you
Yep.
know. But I also, not just gratitude, but an accomplishments practice. So you start propelling positivity into your brain, not only with gratitude, but with what have I accomplished in the last 24 hours? I
What are the
mean,
wins?
or in
Yeah.
my life, write down 5 things every day because then you start like, oh, I I get shit done. I am, not worthless. I am doing, even if it's keeping your plants alive again for another week, or if it's, I do have a PhD, or if it's, I was really kind to that person that was losing their shit at the post office, which I've done. People say like it's just so simple, but it's so amazing because it is putting your mind into positive modes about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a practice. Like confidence is a practice. All of this is a practice. And since I'm a yogi, I suppose you could call it, every moment can be a holy moment. And
Mm-hmm.
we literally can drop the past. Shit happens. We do bad things. We've all done things that we regret, but they're in the past now. Drop it. Focus on the positive things. Transformation absolutely does happen through that.
Well,
But
and I
that's
think
the
it's
kind of
in
homework I give people. I don't give people Patanjali's Eightfold Path of Yoga as homework, but definitely, start writing just 10 minutes with your coffee, 10 minutes, five gratitudes and five accomplishments. And it starts to change you.
I do think it's important to, like we talk about the past, right? And some people, sit in that the shame of a thing or the regret of a thing or what have you, because you
Hmm.
will carry a part of that, whatever the situation is, for
Hmm.
the rest of your life, because it's impacted you in some way, shape, or form. But on the same token, like the release of that
Hmm.
allows you the space, right, to grow into the present and into the future.
Right.
And that can't happen if you're, like, have you ever played, not really tug of war, but like had a rope in both hands, right? And you're trying to, one person's going one way with it and another person's going the other way with it. And you're just like, no, come on. Like, just let it go and you can keep going this way.
Yeah.
Right. But
Yeah.
we want to drag everything with us. And, like your
But that's
brain won't have it.
exhausting. It's
It is.
exhausting to drag it all with you all the time. This is the
Yeah.
thing that, because I've done that work. Because, all of this also has to do with, body image and I've gone through menopause. Like I am not the same as I was 10 years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
I've done the work that's like, okay, this isn't what really matters. This is, I don't have a waist. Big whoop, really. We do drag all these things of, especially the not good enough things.
Oh, yeah,
Oh my God, it's exhausting. So
it is.
I've done the work of letting that go. Like, because I want to
Well,
be
and
all up here for
sometimes,
the rest of my life. I don't want to be hunched over, I remember seeing little old ladies, especially in Eastern Europe, little old ladies hunched over a cane, barely able to walk down the street. I'm like, I am not going to be that person because that's not only physical, that's some mental weight on there to
mhm.
become that, because you do have a choice how you're going to end up. You
Oh, sure.
absolutely always have a choice. So that's been my
Well, and
focus.
it's how you choose to live your life, right? Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
but understanding like what do we have control over? And that's not
Hmm.
to say like toxic positivity where it's like I can only see the good in things from ever and ever. Like, nay, puppy.
No,
I am all for
no.
like being safe and looking out for red flags and all of the things.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but on the same token, how I choose to perceive them. And I think that's why this work is so powerful, especially for photographers,
Hmm.
because we could both be shooting the same person in the same set with the same light, same outfit, and have wildly different
Yeah.
images based purely on like our lens choices and posing choices and direction and all of the things.
And it's our energy that
Yeah.
we bring to it too. We all
Mhm.
have totally different energy.
Yeah. And that's one of the things, people talk about like shootouts and folio builds. Well, I don't want my work to look like everybody else. And I'm like, well, then don't let it look like everybody else. You have complete control over
Yeah.
whatever it is that you create. When we start looking at impact, one of the things with my mentees a lot, and I revisit this a lot too, is what is the impact? Right. And so
Mhm.
when we were talking about, the sort of brain aspect of things, like that transformation of shifting her relationship and in her partnership, right? And
Mhm.
or the she's walking taller. Like this isn't like she just left the studio, had a great afternoon, and then like went back to her life and felt like hell. Like she carried that through, and
Yeah.
the impact, even when we don't see it. And so when we're getting feedback back from customers or friends of customers or partners of customers
Hmm.
about what's happening for them,
Hmm.
they can always pinpoint it right back to that moment.
And the science also says, since we have tangible evidence, we have physical
Mhm.
photographs that we can probably see on a daily basis. Every time you're seeing
Mhm.
them, you're reliving it and like re-upping and refreshing all that that represents and all that that happened that day.
Yeah.
It's like perpetually reinforcing
Well,
itself
it
and growing and
it
expanding
becomes an
because then it ripples
identity.
out into your family and your children and your relatives and your friends and it
Mhm.
changes the world. Remember in 2018 at the Portrait Masters conference in Phoenix and Platon was there and I was
Oh, I
just sitting there
very
like
clearly
this is
remember
like
that. Like,
food for my
oh,
soul. That dude is just
yeah,
incredible. And at the end, he looks at us, points his finger, and he's like, now go out and change the world. Because this, he's got the nonprofit and he's doing stuff
right.
besides, professional photography. I always had that in my mind, like I want to change the world. So now I'm building a course on all this. So other
Mhm.
photographers are like, what is she talking about? Ooh, I want to learn about this. So I'm in the process of building that so that
That's awesome.
other people can, imagine if all, there's a photographer in every corner of the world doing this, like how it could ripple out and,
Mhm.
one, one healed woman at a time. I mean, one healed woman, that's a lot of power.
It's so funny because I talk to a lot of photographers. There's always this like disconnect. Well, I don't want to do a 40 over 40, or I don't want to do, insert title here.
Right.
Because, these demographic campaigns have really picked up steam, and especially for women over 40 over the last probably five
Hmm.
or 6 years. There is a thing with the media only portraying youth as the ideal. And I mean, so much so that I personally like to believe that like the demand for attention for women over 40 and over 50 is what landed Martha Stewart on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Things of that nature, Pam Anderson and her no makeup look, and this is how I'm showing up for red carpet events, and
Hmm.
like all of that. We are changing the world because
Absolutely.
we are the media. Let's say you have even 10 40 over 40 pieces rolling, right?
Hmm.
Across the country at one time. Only 10. Not three per city in, your tri-city region, but just
Hmm.
like 10 across the country. That's still 400 women.
Yeah.
400 women that are impacted in some way, shape, or form
Yeah.
by that experience. And some people just kind of blow it off. They're like, that was fun. Okay, cool. And they go about their lives and la la la. The
Hmm.
majority of those women that go through that experience are actually like, I can't even believe how incredible that felt.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
even more of them are, that felt incredible. I want that every day.
Yeah.
So they're putting those photos right in front of them in the morning, and on the nightstand and in the living room. And
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's not just about you in that moment. It's also, portraits are love letters, whether they're
Yeah.
to yourselves or the people that you love. So that ripple effect, even if I was photographed, had a great time, and had a heart attack, never to be seen again. There are people that are going to tell the story of who I was based
Yeah.
on that what was created in that session.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's powerful as
It's
fuck.
really incredible to
Yeah.
be part of it. And I think, and that's why campaigns are so great because people do like to feel like they're a part of something, that they're
Yeah.
not alone in like, oh, this is just for me, it's
Mm-hmm.
selfish. And, a lot of people go to that place of like, what am I going to do with 10 photos of myself or 30 photos of myself? But campaigns are great because of that feeling of, oh, I'm
The
joining
community.
in on something really incredible
Mhm.
and powerful and that will make a difference in the world. And people really resonate with that and want to be part of that.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Well,
yeah.
it's becoming a part of something that's larger than yourself, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it models for your kids. Like I remember I was going through like my parents' old photos or something before they had me. I'm the oldest of my whole generation. And before they had my parents had me, my mom really, really, really wanted to be an actor in New York.
Hmm.
And we lived, well, they lived at the time in West Orange, New Jersey, which is like right outside of Newark.
Hmm.
And so she would like run into the city for a weekend or whatever and like go to auditions and things. And there's this photo of her like, in 75, 76, something like that. Uh like cool little like I forget what the style is called, but like, black headband and then the poof and really long, smoking a cigarette, just great big
Oh
smile
yeah.
on her face, right? Like in the city and all of that. And you know, that spawned questions with us. Well, do you ever regret like not living out that dream? And, she had to kind of come to terms with, no, I'm a mom, but she always wanted to be a mom.
Yeah.
Always, always, always. And that's that nurturing aspect. But you have people who are nurturers. You also have people who are connectors, right? Like I'm certified
Yeah.
in sacred money archetypes and it's a motivator
Hmm.
for people that are like alchemists, right? To be a part of something larger than themselves.
Yeah.
And that's where the movement component comes in. So the
Yeah.
byproduct of that experience benefits them, but the purpose is to be a part of that movement and change the world.
Yeah.
They just happen to have some cool things that come with being part
Yeah.
of it, right? That come for them. But then they start to experience what that is, and they realize that even without that event, right, or that community, they experience a personal transformation, whether it's small or large, that allows them to show up differently with their partners, differently with their kids, differently with their staff, their coworkers, right? Because now they're embodying this other version of themselves. They've got
Hmm.
that tangible evidence right in front of them. She exists. It's so powerful to really lean into things like posing and not for the flattery angle, but just to understand shape and human behavior and tying emotion to how we move our bodies, but also to understand that our work has the potential to be negative as well. That's why people feel like, oh, I'm not photogenic, or I always hate my photos, because they don't want to have that tangible evidence showing them everything they hate about themselves too.
Hmm. Hmm.
And holding space for that to be okay, like that's some next level right there.
I mean, I know people sometimes hate their photos, but not the ones I take. I've never had people go, "Oh, I don't like that," But because I always explain to them too, like conscious and unconscious expression. So, like, usually a camera comes out and everybody gets their camera face on, and it's
Mhm.
very, oh, there's a camera. Okay, let me suck in my gut, and are my earrings straight? And
Right.
it's not you showing up, right? It's the,
Mhm.
oh, I have to smile for the camera, and that's why people hate their photos because they're not seeing themselves
Right.
in a photo like that. Your energy and your vibe and your laughter and your smile, the real you. And that's why it can be so startling because it's like that's sometimes working with people like us. It's like it's the first time you're really seeing a photograph of
Yeah.
yourself.
I have an aunt who she is the documentarian, but she is true and through documentary, right? Like she's the one that's taking 200 frames at Christmas
Yeah.
dinner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And half of it is of people eating, right?
Yeah.
Because she just wants to make sure that everyone who's present is some photographed without having to go through a whole posing thing. Right. And so it's like, like turkey falling out of your face. But she used to go, my stepmom used to go for walks with her on Sunday mornings. All the sisters-in-law would get together and walk their dogs in this like waterfront park. My photographer aunt, she really was just admiring the sunrise, right? It would go early in the morning and it was like these beautiful like cotton candy and pink and blue and all of that coming up with the sun. But at the same time, on the horizon line, right at the end of the land, is my stepmom, who is bent over, ass to camera, like picking up the dog poop from her dog. Right. And my other aunt is like, isn't it beautiful? And she's like, take that off. Why are you showing the world my ass? Why am I bent over? Why could you not be thoughtful enough to realize like that's my ass in the air? And I was just like, that's not everybody sees every detail, but it's the pieces of what we show people, whether we're talking about portrait or environmental or documentary, like the aspects of themselves that they want to be a part of their story. And that means that we have to be able to connect with them here and here.
That's why it's like
Sorry.
I think like everybody needs to do it. Everybody in the world should have a photo shoot with a true professional. That it's a rare experience to
Well, and I
go
don't
through
think
that.
people understand the actual byproducts of that, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's a friend of mine, and she's like, what do I need a photo shoot for? Like, I wouldn't use it for
Yeah.
the business or anything. And like, what do I need that for? Like, I'm fine. And I was just
Yeah.
like, okay, if you're trying to convince me to convince you to get a photo shoot, like, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
Right. But I think about like those byproducts, like, what would you do with 10% more confidence? And
Yeah.
most people are in the space of being pretty time poor, right? Especially younger families and running around and doing all the things in this interview and that, or that soccer practice and that grocery run. And like, who has time for a portrait session? Like, who do I think I am? But just like, if you boosted your confidence by like that much, what would it do for your life?
Yeah.
And I think that's really the best way I've been able to have those conversations with people who are like, photo shoot, what? Why?
Yeah.
Um, Let alone the what would I do with 20 photos of myself, people,
Yeah.
right? Uh,
Well, because a lot of people think it's just a vanity thing. It's like,
mhm.
oh, look at me, I have pictures, not really knowing how much further that goes. It's
Yeah.
not just like, oh, here's some pretty pictures of me, that it's part of a journey,
Yeah.
like most women. And this is why I love the over 40 demographic is most women over 40, they're on some kind of journey to self-improvement,
Oh yeah.
some self-discovery, some self-improvement,
Some
something.
healing,
So, yeah,
some
get
finally being able to bet on themselves,
yeah,
and not have to lean on
exactly.
anybody else for approval or permission, right?
Right.
It's this is the part of
Right.
my life where I get to give myself permission and no
Right.
holds barred. Like, this is
Yeah.
what's happening.
They get it. The ones who come, they get it that this is not just pretty pictures and oh, I want to see myself pretty with hair and makeup. They know it's part of the journey
Mhm.
of being the best you can be and growing and
Well,
being
and
more confident and
having
all that. Yeah.
having that, proof of concept that I was bold enough to trust myself to do this and
Mm-hmm.
trust this photographer. That's why, like actually seeking out somebody that style you appreciate and not just the cheapest guy in the room is so powerful, because anybody who photographs you, whether you're ass over tea kettle in front of a beach
Yeah.
or in a photo studio, right? That's a piece of your story. What do you
Mm-hmm.
want that story to be? You get to decide what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we kind of have like the best job in the world. It's pretty great.
We really do.
So what's coming up for you?
Writing this course and gonna be filming it, and hopefully by the fall I'll have that ready. Otherwise, just,
Okay.
working and living and
Doing
I
all
mean,
of the
you talk
things.
about building your own life and being, it's like I work 4 days a week, dude. I'm not, I don't do this to do it 70 hours a week.
70 hours a week, yeah.
Yeah, I do it so I can be not stressed and live and connect with my friends and be with my dog at my house. And especially like it's summer now, it stopped raining. Wow. So it's like I'm gonna sit out on the back patio and read with my dog and then when I work hard. So I quality of life is a big one for me. I'm really a European, really. So it's like, yeah.
So
30
what,
hours a
just
week is
wine and
great.
cigarettes and 30 hours a week of
No,
work?
I don't smoke anymore.
Well, and
Live.
connect, right? Like,
Yeah.
when you're able to stop chasing long
Mm,
enough to actually connect with the world around you, Like I think before we started recording, we were talking about networking a little bit. And,
Hmm.
I've always approached networking because at first it was like just go, 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 get in front of a bunch of people. But now, like, I look at anything social as networking, right? Whether
Hmm.
I'm like going out to, wine dinner with friends or if I'm going to a
Hmm.
business thing. And by being able to kind of negotiate your calendar, right? And like 4 days
Hmm.
a week, and I'm priced in such a way that I know I'm safe. Like that takes so
Hmm.
much pressure off of those connection opportunities that
Yeah.
it becomes effortless to book more. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, it is, like with a lot of people this year, it's, it is like I am networking a lot still. I'm
sure.
just not doing it 7 days a week. I am, I don't want to say I'm chasing. I have to stay out there and be present in the
Mhm.
community to keep it going for sure. I'm not able to just sit back and the people come.
Well, no, but being able
But
to go out into your community and simply connect becomes a much
exactly,
easier way to network
exactly.
than,
Yeah,
oh my God, I have to go to this, and then I have to go to
yeah,
this, and I have to go to this, and I have to go to this. And then I want to make sure that I do this
yeah,
thing and like,
yeah,
forget it.
yeah.
Just forget
No.
it. Like,
And I
take the
have that
pressure
thing
off.
of like, oh, it's, I don't do the like, oh, I have to go to this networking meeting now. It's like, oh, I get to go to this networking. I get to go meet some more
Mhm.
people. Oh, and I'll probably see some of my community friends that I see at this meeting every week. And, it's a joyful thing for me.
Yeah.
It really is because I'm a nice person. So it's like when I walk in a room, people are like happy to see me
Yeah.
and happy to introduce me to somebody new and like, oh, this is the woman that took my photographs. Oh my God, you got to talk to her. Like how, full of joy can that get? I mean, it's just like it's the best.
Well, and I really like that you're like, no, I'm a nice person. I'm fun to be around. Like,
Yeah.
like I love going and having people react to my presence in that way and connect
Yeah.
with them on a friendly level, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not just, business card shiving. It's you're actually there to connect and build real
Yeah.
relationships. And in
Yeah.
doing that, like you've built a just terrific business,
Yeah.
beautiful work,
Yeah.
and you're very well aware of how you're impacting people, and you're
Hmm.
creating a course that's going to allow other photographers to do that too. Like,
Hmm.
high fucking five, my friend. That's awesome.
Woo! Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Darina, where can people find you online?
My website is darinaphoto.com. So Darina photo.com. There's a link tree on my Instagram, which is Darina Neyret Portrait. So that has like all the links of all the things.
Awesome. Well, I am really excited to hear more about your course when that is starts to flesh out. And so
Oh,
please.
oh, by the time this airs, I'm probably going to be ready to I'm starting a group on Facebook. Can I
Mhm.
talk about that?
Yeah,
So it's called the Reframe Method. And so there should be, by the time this airs, a group you can join to hang out with me and find out more.
that's terrific. And we'll drop it in the show notes below too. So,
Awesome.
along with all of the links. So, Darina, thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad you named the baby the reframe method. That's awesome.
Yes. Yeah, named the
And
baby. Yeah.
name the baby. Uh, but yeah, so it is always so good to connect with you.
It's
Thank you
always so
so,
great to
so
see
much.
you in person and online. But yeah,
Yes,
we always bump
absolutely.
into each other somewhere. So it's always great.
In the greatest of ways, in the greatest of ways.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening, and don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, do all of the things, and leave a review. Please, please, please leave a review. It helps in all of the places. But thank you so much for your time today, and we'll see you next week.